Kaidon Salter is visiting Syracuse.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer, and thank you for making us your first listen of every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. And we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And folks, it hasn't been that long since I last seen you guys because we got another mini podcast for you all today. And that is that Liberty quarterback, Kaidon Salter, is visiting Syracuse, according to 24/7 Sports and On3. So two major recruiting services are reporting that Liberty quarterback, Kaidon Salter, who we talked about for 30 minutes-ish yesterday on the podcast, you know, his bio, what he did at Liberty as far as football-wise, what the scheme would look like with him. And ultimately, I gave my stamp of approval on Kaidon Salter. Not that it matters to Syracuse, who's making the decisions, but I gave my stamp of approval. I want Kaidon Salter as a quarterback for this football team next season. And now we officially know that there is interest because he is visiting the Orange this week. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the competition for Kaidon Salter, but also I want to apologize in advance. I made a mistake on yesterday's podcast. I accidentally left out some crucial information about him, and that he's got an off-field history. And so I want to explain that in the next part of this mini podcast. For now, we're going to go over the fact that he is visiting Syracuse. So, granted, the off-field issues do exist with him, and you can't just ignore it, and I'll get to them soon, I promise. I am in favor of this move in terms of him being a quarterback for Syracuse, as far as just football related. And when I scanned the comments section after yesterday night's podcast, talking all about him, it seems like you guys are in favor of him too, for the most part. Seems like you guys like him. He's got a ton of talent. Yeah, he regressed from 2023 to 2024, but he lost his number one receiver. And we're talking about a school like Liberty here, not Alabama that can just print wide receivers or name a big-time school where they lose a big-time player and they can just replace him in a heartbeat. That's not Liberty. So they lose their top receiver. He regresses. However, it's a great sign that Kaidon Salter, if you want him to be the quarterback of Syracuse, that he is visiting campus. It's obviously great, right? He gets to get a feel of the university, gets to officially meet in person with the staff, all that and whole 9 yards. You want to get the guy on campus, obviously. But I don't think this is a situation where and I could be wrong, but I don't think this is a situation here where he's going to visit us this week. I don't know exactly what day. The report didn't necessarily say it, but this is not a situation where he's going to visit and then immediately sign on the dotted line. I just can't see it happening. I could be wrong, but I don't see it happening because in the reports, he's also planning other visits. He's planning to visit Colorado. He's planning to visit Florida State. And also UCLA and Auburn have interest. Okay? So there's pretty stiff competition here. Colorado next season, they need a quarterback. Shedeur Sanders is going to the NFL. Florida State, yeah, they're a mess of a football program right now, but guess what? They need a quarterback. They are still a quote-unquote big-time program, and they got a lot of NIL money. So they're certainly a competitor. UCLA, I don't know everything about their situation, but I imagine that if they're looking at them, that they obviously need a quarterback. And Auburn is an interesting one because recently Auburn got a prediction to land Stanford quarterback Ashton Daniels. I don't think that's going to impact Kaidon Salter one bit because Ashton Daniels, I cannot see being a starter for Auburn next season. If he's the starter at Auburn next season, they're going 2-10. Sorry, Zach Black, for me. I texted you this morning. That would be terrible. So I don't think it's going to impact that. I just found it interesting. But the bottom line is that with the other schools that is interested, I don't see this being a scenario where Kaidon Salter visits this week and he signs right away and doesn't give any consideration to the other schools. Now, Syracuse is, in my opinion, a very attractive spot for a transfer portal quarterback. I mean, we all know the actual perks of it, which is the fact that they play it in a dome more than half the season. That's obviously really good. That's going to help you out as a passer. Playing a dome, there's no weather. And also the fact that you got to look at what Kyle McCord just did. 1 year at Syracuse, how he completely built up his reputation. He went from a quote-unquote not so great quarterback or whatever at Ohio State, kind of just mid, Honda McCord, what they called him, to one of the most prolific passers in the country in 1 year at Syracuse playing in Jeff Nixon's offense. Now, yeah, we did talk about yesterday how they have to change the scheme for a guy like Kaidon Salter, but with this coaching staff, you have to have faith that they would be able to do it and that this could be a perfect fit. So yeah, Syracuse getting a visit is really good. It shows that there is definitely mutual interest here. There's got to be in order for a visit really to happen. But it's not really a scenario, in my opinion, where Kaidon Salter is going to visit and then he's just going to sign right then and there. I imagine he's going to take his time. He's probably going to visit other programs and then make a decision. It's still good news, though. Good news, bottom line, if you want Kaidon Salter to be the quarterback of Syracuse football. Now, coming up, I teased at the top of the podcast that there was some information off the field concerns that I left out on yesterday's full podcast talking about him, and I would like to address it and give you the full information, and we can reevaluate whether or not we actually want him to be the quarterback. So that's coming up next on the Locked On Syracuse podcast. Nothing delivers comfort and joy quite like the unrivaled quality and taste of Omaha Steaks. It's guaranteed perfection in every single bite. And right now you can save on unforgettable gifts with 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus store an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE. With 5 generations of experience, they consistently deliver the world's best steak experience. And the gifting experts at Omaha Steaks have made it easy to deliver the perfect gift with thoughtfully curated gift packages featuring gourmet favorites. From legendary steaks to mouth-watering desserts and more, save 50% off site-wide for a limited time at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners get an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE. Minimum purchase may apply. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. We finally know Syracuse football's bowl game and their opponent. They're playing on December 27th in the Holiday Bowl against Washington State. The FanDuel has the Orange as 6.5-point favorites. It's very curious that they actually have a line on the game because we don't know who is going to play on either side. But regardless, as of right now, December 9th at 12:27 p.m., at the time of this recording, Syracuse is favored to get their 10th win of the season, which would be a big deal. To get started on FanDuel, all you got to do is visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. As I have said throughout this mini podcast about Kaidon Salter, there was a glaring omission that I apologize for. I left it out on accident about his off-the-field history, okay? This stems all the way back in 2021, and I want to make sure I give you guys the facts of everything. He's gotten in trouble with law enforcement, okay? Multiple times. He was a 2021 4-star Tennessee commit, but he was dismissed from the program, I think, before his freshman year, and he had multiple instances. According to KnoxNews.com, okay, I verified them. They are a reputable source. He was suspended by Tennessee, but later reinstated after an assault and burglary incident in a residence hall in March of 2021, okay? In June of 2021, he was pulled over for having no taillights and a tinted license plate, and then the police found marijuana in his car and he was arrested. And following that, he was then dismissed from Tennessee, and that's why he ended up at Liberty in his college career rather than Tennessee. I also want to read you guys a statement from Kaidon Salter himself. This is coming from his Twitter account when he entered the transfer portal following his dismissal from the program in 2021. It's just an excerpt of it. He goes, quote, "My past mistakes are meant to guide me, not define me. Everyone makes mistakes in life, but that doesn't mean I have to pay for my mistakes the rest of my life. Good people do make bad choices. It doesn't mean I'm bad. It just means I'm human." I know I just threw a lot at you. So the big takeaway is that Kaidon Salter in 2021 had multiple instances with law enforcement. Obviously, not good. There's off the field issues here. Granted, it was in 2021. You can do what you want with that information, but I will give you my opinion on it. Ultimately, it's on the Syracuse staff. It's on them. If they deem that he's learned from his past mistakes, if they believe he's grown from his past mistakes, if they have spoken to the right people about his past mistakes and they determine that this is a good kid who screwed up, then I am in favor of the move. Because ultimately, it's not my decision and it's on the staff, and I have to trust that Fran Brown and his staff is going to come to the right conclusion. It works in both ways. If they talk to the people who were affected by what he did, if they talk to his coaches, former players, and they make the determination that Kaidon Salter has not grown from his mistakes, that he has not learned from it, then I would understand not going after him anymore. Now, I imagine the fact that he is visiting Syracuse this week, that they have done some sort of background check on him. Okay? I imagine they have. So I will assume, I will not state as fact, that whatever he did do, they believe that he has grown from it and that he can still be an athlete and play football. Because I do agree with Kaidon Salter in the sense that, look, everyone does make mistakes. I mean, I made a mistake. I left this information out on yesterday's podcast. It was an accident, but I didn't do my job by not including it in because I didn't know about it. And that's on me for not knowing. So I make mistakes. Kaidon Salter obviously makes mistakes, and he's apologized for them. Clearly, okay? And he's also right that just because you make a mistake, albeit it depends on what the mistake is, that you don't have to pay the rest of your life because you made a mistake, especially at 18, 19 years old. However, you do have to live with the consequences of poor choices. You do. You have to live with it. So, again, if the coaching staff talks to the right people, and I hope they talk to the right people, and they determine that Kaidon Salter has grown from everything, and that this is in the past, and it's not something we have to worry about going forward, then okay. I trust the coaching staff. And it goes the other way too. They talk to the right people. They don't think he's learned. They don't think he's grown. Then I would support not going after him. That's my opinion on it. So I apologize for not including that information. It was someone in the comments section that brought it to my attention. He said that, or he or she rather, said that they have a prior off the field history and that they don't want him as the quarterback because of it. I totally understand that opinion. I get it. I'm leaving it up to the coaching staff. That's my take. I understand either way though. But that's the bottom line. I wanted to make sure you guys knew all the facts before maybe Syracuse football gets him, because they could. They could very well get him. He's on a visit. I don't think he's going to sign right away, like I said, but he is on a visit. There's interest here. I wanted to give you guys all the information before you can make a determination, and it goes beyond just football, clearly. Okay? So he's got an off-the-field history, and hopefully the staff comes to the right conclusion one way or another. As far as what is coming up on the podcast going forward, This is the second mini podcast of the day. I don't think, barring something crazy happening, that I'm going to be making another mini podcast. I mean, Brady Denneberg just entered the transfer portal, the kicker, but I don't think that's, you could do what you want with that information. I'm not making a mini podcast on it. I wish him nothing but the best, Brady Denneberg. I'm not going to make a mini podcast about it, though. So the next time I'll see you guys is the usual time, 6 p.m. Eastern. We're going to talk for a full podcast, 30-ish minutes, about another transfer portal quarterback option, the guy from A&M. Okay, that's our hint, the guy from A&M. And I just also want to let you know that I was making this podcast before I learned of Kaidon Salter's off-field history. Before it, I was going to make it as another transfer portal quarterback option. So that's what's coming up on the Locked On Syracuse podcast. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. If you like this video, click that like button. If you really liked it, subscribe to the channel, turn on those notifications so you know right away when I am dropping the next podcast. And I will see you all at 6 p.m. because we're talking more transfer portal.